Hey, if you're anything like me, you find that sometimes it's tough to know which exercises are best to do. Even someone in my industry, in my profession, I'm always trying to find what the best exercise is based on how I feel. Now, most people struggle to understand this because they don't know where to start. So I want to help you with that today. My name's Dr. Antonio Gurley. I'm a chiropractor here in Lafayette, Colorado with Loud Chiropractic and Coaching. And we help individuals live the adventurous life that they were made for through health, fitness, wellness, and exercise. So today what we're going to be talking about is called movement mapping. Before you even do an exercise or a stretch, you need to know if it's actually good for you, right? And especially when we're talking about mobilizations, how do you know where you need to mobilize other than just where you feel tight, right? So what movement mapping is understanding that realistically, we need to be able to move every joint in our body every single day. And if you don't, it starts to get really stiff, just like a rusty hinge on a door, and then it makes it more challenging. And then you create a cascading event. If my joints don't move well, then my muscles get really tight. And then if my muscles are tight, it's hard to move my joints. And then we just see how this sticky material just starts building up on top of each other. So realistically, anything you do is going to be good, but could we be a little bit more direct with what we're doing? So what movement mapping is just you taking a global head to toe audit of what things feel like. Now, where do most of us bypass or skip over? Our spine and our neck. So our focus today, right? You could take your wrist, you could take your shoulder. Those are pretty straightforward and easy. But your spine and your neck are two of the areas that are really forgotten and overlooked. So our neck, and this exercise should be done seated, just in case you do get a little bit lightheaded or dizzy. We don't want you falling over. But our neck, if you consider all of the ranges of motion it should go through, we have flexion, and we have extension, we have side to side, lateral flexion, and then we have rotation. Now there are baseline ranges of motion that we would ideally like to see, but what we forget is our head, we don't just move like a robot, right? We couple those movements together so that we can do dynamic movements like checking a blind spot or seeing something that's flying up over your head, right? So we have to couple those motions together. So movement mapping for your neck is taking into consideration all those planes of motion and trying to determine where you feel stuck. So for instance, I might look up and then add rotation, right? I might look up and then go side to side. Or I might go side to side and then add rotation. So what's happening here, if I grab my spine model, I'm trying to not only look at rotation, but I'm trying to take into consideration flexion and rotation. So I'm putting each one of these joints into a different position so that I can challenge it and make sure it's moving. Even if one little corner of the joint is not moving well, that's gonna bleed over and start to make the whole joint tight. And so many of us, because we live life right here in front of us, we often don't look up. We look over to the side if we're checking a blind spot maybe while we're driving. We're looking down a lot, but we're very rarely going side to side. So what I want to encourage you to do is just start mapping what areas are actually tight. And when you feel that tension, I want you to think of it like a rusty door hinge. Instead of forcing it to stretch and move, I just want you moving it back and forth, right? Just move it, move it, move it. Fortunately for us, we have our own WD-40, which is called synovial fluid. It's built into our joints, and the more we move it, the more vascularization or blood flow or proliferation we'll have, and it'll replenish that, and it'll make that joint softer and more mobile with that WD-40 fluid, but you gotta keep moving it, right? Just like if I had a rusty hinge, I'd move it, move it, move it, put a little bit of lube on it, move it, move it, move it, so I can break through that rust and keep it moving, and then you gotta keep it moving. So I want you to do that for the neck. For the mid-back, sitting or on the ground, we want to start looking at rotation, lateral flexion, right? And then like we said, we have flexion and we have extension. Now again, we can do those paired together. I can be extended and then I can bend side to side. I can be extended and I can rotate. I can be to the side and rotate. You get what I'm saying? We're trying to find just different positions that you haven't been in a while, and you don't force it. You just brush up against it and you move. And then you come off and you go somewhere else and you move. This, just done daily, will make profound effects in how you feel, how well your joints move, and how loose your muscles can be. And it's gonna be very rejuvenating and revitalizing to the energy that it also brings you. So if you haven't done movement mapping, I strongly encourage you to do movement mapping. Get a cup of coffee, get a cup of tea, do it in the morning, do it in the afternoon, do it wherever you see fit for your body. And I hope that can continue helping you live the adventurous life you were made for. Once again, my name is Dr. Antonio. Until next time, live loud.